Take a step back and really think about it, we are cooked. Making six figures now is essentially amounting to nothing, which is insane to me, especially when you're living in a high cost of living area. Add that on top of the fact that these corporate jobs are no longer giving us pensions.
At the end of the day, your boss, the company, it is a business. It's nothing personal. If there's a way for them to reduce costs and increase productivity while making record profits, it's in their best interest to do so. Apparently, a lot of people are having problems with corporate America, specifically retiring and the work hours and all that. So we're going to look at a couple videos, give our reactions, our opinions, and see what lessons we can actually learn from this video. Let's get started. Oh, there we go.
Unpopular opinion with a dash of Sunday scaries, but retirement may be completely off the table for people who work in corporate America. Specifically, my fellow Gen Z baddies. If you take a step back and really think about it, we are cooked. Making six figures now is essentially amounting to nothing, which is insane to me, especially when you're living in a high cost of living area. Add that on top of the fact that these corporate jobs are no longer giving us pensions. They're making it impossible for you to get promoted so you can make more money because now magically all these Fortune 500 companies are so top heavy. We're spending what little money we have left over from our paychecks, paying off our student loans, and then paying for gas.
Okay, so let's start with what she said. Is it impossible to retire in corporate America? Personally speaking, if you're working for a salary or whatever it may be, I think you should start investing. I'm not an investment advisor. This is how I think and what I believe to be true. You should be investing in other things other than your job. So if you lose your job, you have like a fallback or whatever it may be. Retiring completely or relying completely on corporate America or corporate companies for your retirement is a little bit risky, in my opinion. Yes, the money that she makes and six figures or like a lot of money. I think a lot of people who make that type of money, and they're saying that it's not enough to survive. I think that's just a spending issue, to be honest with you. Maybe it is. Maybe they have some expenses. Maybe they have some loans. But if you're saying that you have six figures, you have no debt, you have not a lot of responsibilities per se, and you're telling me that you make six figures and you can't survive, that doesn't make any sense to me personally. I think it just boils down to like spending issues. A lot of people, I would say, a good majority of people who have bad spending habits when they come in to, like, before they come into a lot of money, and those habits don't necessarily change. They get amplified whenever you come into more money. It's the same reason why a lot of people who get or win the lottery, they go broke within a year, which is insane, by the way. Like, that's $100 million and they go broke within a year. Wild stuff. And it's the same thing with people with less money. If your habits towards spending or your attitude towards money stays the same and you get more money, it doesn't make your life any easier, I would say. At a certain point, once you've earned enough money and your basic needs are taken care of, I'm talking about rent, food, utilities, and all these things, more money doesn't necessarily equal happiness or like joy. So that's my 2 cents on it. It's just that
Has to commute 10 plus hours a week for return to office, because somehow the boomers think that forcing everyone to abandon their work-life balance just to pay $20 plus a day for lunch or salad is going to miraculously save the economy. Then, to add fuel to the fire, AI enters the chat, eliminating or drastically changing the future of how we work altogether.
wild stuff. Return to office is wild. I don't understand why they would want us to like return to office. We have to get up early, travel an insane distance. Like, some people don't necessarily have, not necessarily don't have the money, but it's more convenient for them to just do the same work that they would be doing in the office at home. But for some reason, they want them to return to office. I think it is a tactic that they're using to get rid of workers, because there have been stories of like people who have been working from home for the past couple of years receives an order to come back to work within a few days, which is insane. And here's where I think it's a tactic to just like fire people, because if you don't show up, you get fired. But there's no way a person who has been accustomed to like living a certain way for the past couple of days and their past couple of years, and their entire life has been revolved around their schedule. Let's say some people have kids, which is very, very likely that people who have kids, it's easier for them to go pick them up. They don't have to drive like 50 miles to work, 50 miles back to go get their kids. They could just like drive 30 miles instead of 50 to go get their kids. So I think it's just a tactic that they're using to get rid of workers. Another thing is that they're reducing pensions. That's what she said. Anyway, I'm noticing that also that they're reducing benefits, and their reasoning is that they're too top heavy, or they need to make cuts, even though the money that they've earned within that year is way more. They're making record profits, but they can't afford to like give you a raise or whatever it may be, right? And that's a reminder to you, if you're like a salary Johnny, at the end of the day, your boss, the company, it is a business. It's nothing personal. If there's a way for them to reduce costs and increase productivity while making record profits, it's in their best interest to do so. It's the same reason why people are being replaced by AI. Like, imagine, look at this. A person, you would give them instructions and tell them to do a specific task. They might not understand on the first try. They may not understand on the second try. And they may, once they think they understand, they may make a mistake, and then you have to correct it. Versus you type it into a computer who is way more efficient, works faster, doesn't complain, shows up whenever you need it. Whenever you don't need it, you can just shut it off with no consequences. It makes sense from a business standpoint to use a software like that. But the humane part of it, the human side of it, the emotions that come with the fact that you're getting rid of people and you're replacing them with like bots. That's the part where a lot of people don't really like too much. Even the people who are in corporate or whatever it may be. But like, that's another thing. But corporate, these companies, they don't care about you. Not that they don't care, it's just that their business is above all the most important priority, because if the business doesn't exist, you don't exist and you don't get a salary. So it's one of those things you have to like plan around. But some of the points, I understand where she's coming from. The cost of living thing, or like the fact that she's like making 100 plus, maybe most of that is going to her debt. But if she wasn't in debt and she's spending that much money, that I wonder where that would be going. That's all.
And to add fuel to the fire, AI enters the chat, eliminating or drastically changing the future of how we work altogether. I just don't see an end in sight. And every single day, as the days go on and the Sundays keep coming and the weekends get shorter and shorter and shorter, I understand why people scam. I understand. Thank you all for coming to this meeting.
Somebody told me a few days ago something really important. Job security, I would say, the way you keep your job is by becoming more useful, increasing your skill set on like what you're knowledgeable about. These things, and I believe it was inevitable that AI would enter the chat. It wasn't even a surprise when it showed up, because all AI is, or like ChatGPT, it's just a search engine with a personality that could talk back to you. It searches the web based on your prompt and it gives it back to you as a person would, type of thing. It's the same thing. It's more like the evolution of the human race. With all instance in history, if you really pay attention, let's say we go back to like horses, horse-drawn carriages, and how people used to use those for transportation. Then comes cars with motors. It's more efficient in terms of time because you have to raise a horse. You have to give birth to a horse. Then you give birth to a horse. You know what I'm saying. But you have to train it, and then you have to sell it and give it to owner. Versus a car, you just put the key in and then you just go. Which one is easier? And it's the same thing with like, if you look in cars now, manual transmissions used to be very, very standard. It was even called standard, right? But because of a problem, let's say taxi drivers in particular, they didn't like being stuck in traffic and having to change gears. Automatic transmission just makes it easier. So we've always, as human beings, we've always looked for ways to make life simpler. And as a consequence, most of the time, the people who, let's say, fail to adapt in a way gets left behind, and the people who adapted or like found a way to be useful in that market, they stayed. So for all I know, I think for a long time YouTubers will be fine. They're already entering in the space where AI is creating YouTube videos and all this stuff. But I think people will always crave a genuine connection with another human being, not AI. So YouTube is safe for now, but there's always ways that you can increase your usefulness, and that's the key. You need to be useful. That's it, useful. Evolution, progress is not gonna stop just because you feel like it should. Talk to the guys that who used to draw carriages. So corporate America, businesses, the ones that let's say keep the world running type of thing, the ones that you show up to work for every single day, they're a business, and they will continue to be a business whether you are there or not. So to conclude, yes, AI, jobs, and all these other things are taking over, but there's always a way for you to be useful. There's always a way for you to like stay in the loop. And as for retirement, there's ways that you can do so as well. You can invest in other things. And I understand that not everybody has the extra cash to do so, because apparently the economy is really, really bad right now. But if you can, I'm talking to the people who can, and you should. And if you're in a position where you can take advantage, take advantage. Save as much as you can. Save as much as you can. Invest in things that will bring back things to you. That's it. Oh my God. Where did I stop this video? 6 minutes.